Day 9, Patriarchs, Genesis 18-19, Job 7-8, Proverbs 2 verses 1-5. Let's begin. Genesis 18:19. Then the Lord appeared to him, in the steep valley of Mamre, when he was sitting at the door of his tent, in the very heat of the day. And when he had lifted up his eyes, there appeared to him 3 men, standing near him. When he had seen them, he ran to meet them from the door of his tent, and he reverenced them on the ground. And he said, If I, O Lord, have found grace in your eyes, do not pass by your servant. But I will bring a little water, and you may wash your feet and rest under the tree. And I will set out a meal of bread, so that you may strengthen your heart. After this you will pass on. It is for this reason that you have turned aside to your servant. And they said, Do as you have spoken. Abraham hurried into the tent to Sarah, and he said to her, Quickly, mix together 3 measures of the finest wheat flour, and make loaves baked under the ashes. In truth, he himself ran to the herd, and he took a calf from there, very tender and very good, and he gave it to a servant, who hurried and boiled it. Likewise, he took butter and milk, and the calf which he had boiled, and he placed it before them. Yet truly, he himself stood near them under the tree. And when they had eaten, they said to him, Where is Sarah your wife? He answered, Behold, she is in the tent. And he said to him, When returning, I will come to you at this time, with life as a companion, and your wife Sarah will have a son. Hearing this, Sarah laughed behind the door of the tent. Now they were both old, and in an advanced state of life, and it had ceased to be with Sarah after the manner of women. And she laughed secretly, saying, After I have grown old, and my Lord is elderly, shall I give myself to the work of delight? Then the Lord said to Abraham, Why did Sarah laugh, saying, How can I, an old woman, actually give birth? Is anything difficult for God? According to the announcement, he will return to you at this same time, with life as a companion, and Sarah will have a son. Sarah denied it, saying, I did not laugh. For she was terribly afraid. But the Lord said, It is not so, for you did laugh. Therefore, when the men had risen up from there, they directed their eyes against Sodom. And Abraham traveled with them, leading them. And the Lord said, How could I hide what I am about to do from Abraham? Since he will become a great and very robust nation, and in him all the nations of the earth will be blessed. For I know that he will instruct his sons, and his household after him, to keep to the way of the Lord, and to act with judgment and justice, so that, for the sake of Abraham, the Lord may bring about all the things that he has spoken to him. And so the Lord said, The outcry from Sodom and Gomorrah has been multiplied, and their sin has become exceedingly grievous. I will descend and see whether they have fulfilled the work of the outcry that has reached me, or whether it is not so, in order that I may know. And they turned themselves from there, and they went towards Sodom. Yet in truth, Abraham still stood in the sight of the Lord. And as they drew near, he said, Will you destroy the just with the impious? If there were 50 of the just in the city, will they perish with the rest? And will you not spare that place for the sake of 50 of the just, if they were in it? Far be it from you to do this thing, and to kill the just with the impious, and for the just to be treated like the impious. No, this is not like you. You judge all the earth, you would never make such a judgment. And the Lord said to him, If I find in Sodom 50 of the just in the midst of the city, I will release the entire place because of them. And Abraham responded by saying, Since now I have begun, I will speak to my Lord, though I am dust and ashes. What if there were 5 less than 50 of the just? Would you, despite the 45, eliminate the entire city? And he said, I will not eliminate it, if I find 45 there. And again he said to him, But if 40 were found there, what would you do? He said, I will not strike, for the sake of the 40. I ask you, he said, not to be angry, Lord, if I speak? What if 30 were found there? He responded, I will not act if I find 30 there. Since now I have begun, he said, I will speak to my Lord. What if 20 were found there? He said, I will not put to death, for the sake of the 20. I beg you, he said, not to be angry, Lord, if I speak yet once more? What if 10 were found there? And he said, I will not destroy it for the sake of the 10. And the Lord departed, after he had ceased speaking to Abraham, who then returned to his place. And the 2 angels arrived at Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting at the gate of the city. And when he had seen them, he rose up and went to meet them. And he reverenced prone on the ground. And he said, I beg you, my lords, turn aside to the house of your servant, and lodge there. Wash your feet, and in the morning you will advance on your way. And they said, Not at all. But we will lodge in the street. He pressed them very much to turn aside to him. And when they had entered his house, he made a feast for them, and he cooked unleavened bread, and they ate. But before they went to bed, the men of the city surrounded the house, from boys to old men, all the people together. And they called out to Lot, and they said to him, Where are the men who entered to you in the night? Bring them out here, so that we may know them. Lot went out to them, and blocking the door behind him, he said, Do not, I ask you, my brothers, do not be willing to commit this evil. I have 2 daughters who as yet have not known man. I will bring them out to you, abuse them as it pleases you, provided that you do no evil to these men, because they have entered under the shadow of my roof. But they said, Move away from there. And again, You have entered, they said, as a stranger, should you then judge? Therefore, we will afflict you yourself more than them. And they acted very violently against Lot. And they were now at the point of breaking open the doors. And behold, the men put out their hand, and they pulled Lot into them, and they closed the door. And they struck those who were outside with blindness, from the least to the greatest, so that they were not able to find the door. Then they said to Lot, Do you have here any one of yours? All who are yours, sons-in-law, or sons, or daughters, bring them out of this city. For we will eliminate this place, because the outcry among them has increased before the Lord, who sent us to destroy them. And so Lot, going out, spoke to his sons-in-law, who were going to receive his daughters, and he said, Rise up. Depart from this place. For the Lord will destroy this city. And it seemed to them that he was speaking playfully. And when it was morning, the angels compelled him, saying, Arise, take your wife, and the 2 daughters that you have, lest you also should perish amid the wickedness of the city. And, since he ignored them, they took his hand, and the hand of his wife, as well as that of his 2 daughters, because the Lord was sparing him. And they brought him out, and placed him beyond the city. And there they spoke to him, saying, Save your life. Do not look not back. Neither should you stay in the entire surrounding region. But save yourself in the mountain, lest you also should perish. And Lot said to them, I beg you, my lord, though your servant has found grace before you, and you have magnified your mercy, which you have shown to me in saving my life, I cannot be saved on the mountain, lest perhaps some misfortune take hold of me and I die. There is a certain city nearby, to which I can flee. It is a little one, and I will be saved in it. Is it not a modest one, and will not my soul live? And he said to him, Behold, even now, I have heard your petitions about this, not to overturn the city on behalf of which you have spoken. Hurry and be saved there. For I cannot do anything until you enter there. For this reason, the name of that city is called Zor. The sun had risen over the land, and Lot had entered into Zor. Therefore, the Lord rained upon Sodom and Gomorrah sulfur and fire, from the Lord out of heaven. And he overturned these cities, and all the surrounding region, all the inhabitants of the cities, and everything that springs from the land. And his wife, looking behind herself, was turned into a statue of salt. Then Abraham, rising up in the morning, in the place where he had stood before with the Lord, looked out toward Sodom and Gomorrah, and the entire land of that region. And he saw embers rising up from the land like smoke from a furnace. For when God overthrew the cities of that region, remembering Abraham, he freed Lot from the overthrow of the cities, in which he had dwelt. And Lot ascended from Zor, and he stayed on the mountain, and likewise his 2 daughters with him, for he was afraid to stay in Zor, and he dwelt in a cave, he and his 2 daughters with him. And the elder said to the younger, Our father is old, and no man remains in the land who can enter to us according to the custom of the whole world. Come, let us inebriate him with wine, and let us sleep with him, so that we may be able to preserve offspring from our father. And so they gave their father wine to drink that night. And the elder went in, and she slept with her father. But he did not perceive it, either when his daughter lay down, nor when she rose up. Likewise, the next day, the elder said to the younger, Behold, yesterday I slept with my father, let us give him wine to drink yet again this night, and you will sleep with him, so that we may save offspring from our father. And then they gave their father wine to drink that night also, and the younger daughter went in, and slept with him. And not even then did he perceive when she lay down, or when she rose up. Therefore, the 2 daughters of Lot conceived by their father. And the elder gave birth to a son, and she called his name Moab. He is the father of the Moabites, even to the present day. Likewise, the younger gave birth to a son, and she called his name Ammon, that is, the son of my people. He is the father of the Ammonites, even today. Job 7:8. The life of a man on the earth is a battle, and his days are like the days of a hired hand. Just as a servant desires the shade, and just as the hired hand looks forward to the end of his work, so also have I had empty months and have counted my burdensome nights. If I lie down to sleep, I will say, When will I rise? And next I will hope for the evening and will be filled with sorrows even until darkness. My flesh is clothed with particles of rottenness and filth. My skin is dried up and tightened. My days have passed by more quickly than threads are cut by a weaver, and they have been consumed without any hope. Remember that my life is wind, and my eye will not return to see good things. Neither will the sight of man gaze upon me. Your eyes are upon me, and I will not endure. Just as a cloud is consumed and passes away, so he who descends to hell will not ascend. He will not return again to his house, nor will his own place know him any longer. And because of this, I will not restrain my mouth. I will speak in the affliction of my spirit. I will converse from the bitterness of my soul. Am I an ocean or a whale, that you have encircled me in a prison? If I say, My bed will comfort me, and I will find rest, speaking with myself on my blanket, then you will frighten me with dreams, and strike dread through visions. So that, because of these things, my soul would choose hanging, and my bones, death. I despair. By no means will I live any longer. Spare me, for my days are nothing. What is man, that you should praise him? Or why do you place your heart near him? You visit him at dawn, and you test him unexpectedly. How long will you not spare me, nor release me to ingest my saliva? I have sinned. What should I do for you, O keeper of men? Why have you set me against you, so that I have become burdensome even to myself? Why do you not steal away my sin, and why do you not sweep away my iniquity? Behold, now I will sleep in the dust, and if you seek me in the morning, I will not remain. But Baldad the Suhite, responding, said, How long will you speak this way, so that the words of your mouth are like a changeable wind? Does God supplant judgment, or does the Almighty subvert that which is just? And if now your children have sinned against him, and he has dismissed them into the power of their iniquity, even so, you should arise early to God, so as to beseech the Almighty. If you approach with purity and honesty, he will quickly be attentive to you, and a peaceful life will repay your righteousness. So much so that, if your former things were small, your latter things would be multiplied greatly. For inquire of the earliest generation, and investigate diligently the history of the fathers. Of course, we are but of yesterday and are ignorant that our days on earth are like a shadow. And they will teach you, they will speak with you and will offer you the eloquence of their hearts. Can the marsh plant live without moisture? Or can sedges grow without water? When it is still in flower, and has not been pulled up by hand, it withers before all other plants. Just so are the ways of all who forget God, and the hope of the hypocrite will perish. His frenzy will not please him, and his faith will be like a spider's web. He will lean on his house, and it will not stand, he will prop it up, but it will not rise. He seems to have moisture before the sun arrives, and at sunrise his sprout shoots forth. His roots will crowd together over a heap of stones, and among the stones he will remain. If someone is devoured right beside him, he will deny him and will say, I do not know you. For this is the benefit of his way, that others in turn may spring up from the earth. God will not discard the simple, nor will he extend his hand to the spiteful. Even until your mouth is filled with laughter, and your lips with rejoicing. Those who hate you will be clothed with confusion, and the tabernacle of the impious will not continue. Proverbs 2 verses 1 through 5. My son, if you would accept my words, and conceal my commandments within you, so that your ears may listen to wisdom, then bend your heart in order to know prudence. For if you would call upon wisdom and bend your heart to prudence, if you will seek her like money, and dig for her as if for treasure, then you will understand the fear of the Lord, and you will discover the knowledge of God.